The views expressed in the following show are of the host, the guest, and the callers. The content of the following show, its accuracy, authenticity, and the ramifications of the use or application of said content is the responsibility of those speaking and listening, not the broadcast medium.
We are back, and we are live. Feet to the Fire. I'm your host, James Lafayette, the Black Knight of Talk Radio. We got a special guest. Hold on. Oh, look at... Oh, it's Charlie the Wonder Dog. Charlie, look at... You're doing good. Had your surgery? You're doing good and you're up and about? Say something. Come on, say something. Talk to the people. He's not. He wants to go. There he is. Charlie the Jackapoo. Doing alive and well. That's good too. Good. Thanks for those who were praying for an animal. Yes, that's pretty cool. Anyway, we are back and live. Got a few things to talk about today. Got some new stuff. We got a less visible commentary to cap off the evening. And also, I want to talk a little bit about Easter. Perhaps not in the context most are, so don't panic. But I do have some things I want to go over. Let's see if I can do this. This way. That didn't work out good. Let me go back to this one. Yes, the battle, as it's being called, for Berkeley. I wonder if that'll go down in history with that. But there was one thing I commented on the attire used on the people in the bottom picture, who they reminded you of. Paul Joseph Watson. Either seeing the tweet or, of course, it didn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out, put out this tweet better suited with the pictures, the before and after. Who wore it best? Now, this is the part that amazes me, and if people are watching who are not in the a political camp, per se, but when we say there's a bias, a propaganda, an actual political side, a warring faction in the mainstream media, can you just think if you were, I guess it'd be this way, no, this way, there we go, I got to do my, what do you think if these were Trump people showing up to a meeting, what do you think they would say? And these people show up and I don't hear it. Well, I mean, I don't hear every minute of every broadcast, but it is so freaking obvious, this is ridiculous, and they come up to a free speech broadcast, speaking, and they start throwing M80s and smoke bombs, and the police take off. I'll be posting some links below, but if you look at Stefan Molyneux, he had a nice interview with someone who was there, and of course all you have to do is just look through Facebook or Google. Of course, I don't know how the search engines are doing. I've noticed in my spam bin, I would get some emails from people like the technology, oh gosh, I can't think of his name now. Technologist, technocracy. Here we go. Geez, can he talk? And I would get stuff from Patrick, and that was in the spam bin. Alex Jones is in the spam bin, so you could see that I've gotten messages before from these individuals, so you can see that hold on here, I got this, okay. Just the filtering out of particular political stuff is well on its way. So I got all my things set up here. I want to get a couple announcements up front. First off, let's see. Let me go to that. Free Jack TV. Oh, I'm getting people commenting on this. Hold on here. I can turn this off. You've heard of Conspiracy Channel? Well, they've had trouble with censorship and whatnot. I guess just the name Conspiracy Channel brings up all kinds of stuff. So Rob, the man behind all of that, Rob Davin, who's been on the show many times, known him for a long time. Back to the early days of Feet to Fire Radio. He's putting together Free Jack TV. Turn on, boot up, jack in. So check that out. They're still in the final stages of getting it all ready. You can find them on Facebook. It's Free Jack TV. I guess one word is their ID, but you could probably just search for it. Like I have it up here. So I want to mention that. Look for that. It's good to support the independent media, especially that what's going on with the censorship now on YouTube. People aren't showing up in the search engines as the way they should be because of content. They're being demonetized for those who depend on it. I'm supporting my own channel at this point. So, but I will say, I did start last week's show with a little video, right? And I made sure I took it from on YouTube, so that I wasn't like playing it, and I still got hit with a copyright claim. Now, they didn't cause me to delete the video or anything, and it is seen throughout the world, but they get to put commercials in there now. So if you see commercials in my video, it's because someone else is doing it. Just because of that one song, which is a video that was done on YouTube already, but that's the way that goes. I want to mention, speaking of alternatives, there is a website that's looking to be sort of a Facebook type of alternative. It is called Minds.com. MINDS.com. And it is one I'm on there. You can look me up. It's F2F is the I believe that's the name. No, it's James Arthur Jancic. That's right. And the next one I'm going to talk about, we'll try that out. Look for me there. There's one called Gab. It's Gab AI, GAB.ai. You have to sign up because they're phasing people in because it's a new system. It would be an upgrade to Twitter, where their whole mainstay is not to censor speech. And you can post a little bit longer messages. You also can tie in your Twitter. Of course, you are subject to the length of Twitter. If you want to, you could tie the Twitter in so it'll post into both, which is kind of clever. So that's something to do there. So these two, and I'm on both of these. Twitter, this one, Gab, I am F2F. So it'd be @F2F. And in the Minds.com, it's James Arthur Jancic, Jancik. Same thing as I have for Facebook. So keep those in mind, and I'll log in to that and get that system up and running. One moment, the old website is still up and running for all the shows up to this year. Oh, look, I said that. As of March 25th, 2018. Anyway, 2018. But Feet to the Fire Radio is the main new page now. Still have my brother working on it with me. We're pretty much done for now. It has the various stories. I'm writing some articles as well. I'll be putting this up. In fact, the broadcast from today was put out via this website on Facebook and others. So we're trying that out. So check that out. There's nobody. I don't have anybody joining anything yet. You can join the mailing list, which is there free, but there's no users or none. I believe you can comment as you see fit on here to the shows. We'll see. I just wanted to make sure you got that. Though most people are listening, you can watch live. Whenever you do that, you will see the current show that's playing now, or you will see the last one that was recorded up to the new show. When I change the link every week. When you listen live, you are hearing, the audio being broadcast with the green one, just the audio. Some people wanted to hear the audio and so on. And I am posting the audio version of this as well on the web pages. So I got that done. All right. some of the news stories here. You know, we're talking about this latest thing now. I was just checking in with this story about people. This guy shooting people in Cleveland. He was going out and finding just people on the road, probably like a homeless guy or somebody who's older or can't handle themselves, protect themselves. And he talks to them and he shoots them live on Facebook. And he supposedly killed many of them. They're looking for him. And some of the people were saying, stay home and arm yourself and all that. And that's true. But what I commented to in sort of a tongue-in-cheek was, wait a minute, shouldn't you go to the nearest gun-free zone where the killer can't bring his guns? Well, somebody got a little upset thinking that I was making, like this poor guy who got shot was supposed to have done that. And, you know, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe people read too fast. Maybe I don't write good enough. But the whole point of it is that they should be, this is the problem, is that people are not wanting to have guns around, and yet that's the only answer to it, is to have that. Now, this poor guy, if he would have had a gun, but I'm sure it's expensive, he didn't know, he didn't have it, didn't want to, and you have some idiot walking around doing this. But this is the times we're in. In fact, I posted, I think it was on my Twitter feed, I posted, let me go to this other screen. Wait a minute now. There we go. I think I posted on here, there's a T-shirt out. It's probably too far down the way here. That's why I really hate this Facebook. You get too active. Well, anyway, there's a T-shirt out. Look up the X shirt. It's a T-shirt that has carbon nanotubes. You could talk to Miller about the carbon nanotubes. We did a whole show about those. They have carbon nanotube woven, very thin pads that go in, and it could stop almost point-blank range. Pretty amazing stuff. And now they even make one that you can set in your kid's backpack. I mean, think about this. Think about what you're saying. You're having to put a backpack, a pad in the backpack. Boy, I'm losing it today with this. Trying to do too many things at once, and I guess my brain is fried for doing it. So, that's the problem. We're in a world where we're talking about putting bulletproof armor in our kids' backpacks. And this is where the point is of one of the things of many things that Trump talked about was having reciprocity laws. So if you have concealed carry in one state, you can do in others. Greatly behind that. A couple of things I want to mention. I have, one more thing about the guns. I just saw this just before when I was preparing for the show. 29 people shot in less than 18 hours in Chicago, which has tough gun laws, and it's hard to get guns, even though the Supreme Court overturned several of things. It's still kind of hard. But they have tough gun laws, and here we go. 29 people shot in 18 hours. So that was mine. All right, I might as well go here. Let me get back to the webpage. One of the things I want to talk about is I called it a week after Trump bombed Syria, which I still am not happy with at all. But people were done with Trump. We're getting off the Trump train and all this stuff. But what Trump has done so far and is doing is far beyond any president in my lifetime as far as changing things back to what it should be, following on a campaign campaign promises, and the fact that he did this deal in Syria. I'm not defending it. I disagree with it, but I'm not going to throw him out at this point, so to speak, because of all the other stuff that's happening and good. And one of the things they're saying is flip-flopping. For example, I have the thing up here. He was flip-flop. He was going to name China as a currency manipulator, and then he changed his mind because they raised the value of their currency, which kind of overrode the manipulating aspect of it for more balanced trade. And you're also after Trump's meeting in Mar-a-Lago, I almost said Key Largo. He Chinese president goes back. They start talking to North Korea. They sent 100,000 some troops over there. Now, most people think, okay, they're going there to help North Korea, and maybe they'll protect from an invasion, but it works both ways. First thing I thought of was they're putting them there to work to keep North Korea from doing something dumb. And then they sent back coal. They purchased coal from North Korea. They sent that back and are buying it from North Carolina. Now, there's a political statement there, sending it away from them, long-term customer, and they're buying it from America in North Carolina. And also, they had sent warnings that they might take out. Now, those weren't as obvious. They weren't as blatant. I don't think I've seen a good main, or at least a popular website saying this. I've seen several of them saying that they're threatening to take out if they do something ridiculous. So all in all, I see those are all positive things. Now, I still don't like the bombing in Syria, but again, I don't want to throw the man out. He's doing great except for that, and we'll just have to go on. I mean, I trust him in as much as him, but it's the people around him that worry me. But Trump he could have now many enemies that he's dealing with. He thought he can go in there and be the big cheese and say what's done. And when he got there, he got a schooling of how you have the deep state and you have his own party inside teaming up with the insiders on the other side of the aisle and so forth. So if China works with the United States, why would he want to slam them? That is leadership. That is not flip-flopping. That's a fluidity in purpose in getting to a defined target or goal. You know, it'd be like somebody calling a play in football, and then they notice what the defense is doing, and then they called another play, an audible. This is the whole point of this. You want someone to be able to do that kind of thing. So a week after this, I've calmed down with the bombing, and then with the mother of all bombs, to me, that was not even a story. I mean, it was a story about it because you got people who talk about it's the biggest bomb, non-nuclear bomb. It's like people who buy, fast cars or long, boats. Yeah, my boat is, 50 feet or whatever. So it's all nonsense. It's what can do the job if you need to do that. And the only significant thing I saw about that story, which is in here in the feed somewhere, is that these tunnels were allegedly the ones put in by the CIA way back in the day. So, and then they, if not were abandoned and the terrorist people took it over, who knows what kind of training went on in there. But that to me was the story. Another story, this was posted, and I don't know if the guy who posted it deleted it. I don't know how that works on there, but I got it. There is a picture of Dianne Feinstein, and the government bought a bunch of land and built 56 buildings, our U.S. post offices, and they were operated and paid in full by the government and whatnot. And then they decided, the government said, we don't need those anymore, we're going to sell them, and so they gave a contract to a real estate firm to sell this real estate. Apparently, the real estate is pretty in demand too. I guess so. I don't know exactly where it is, but there's a profit involved, and so they got a real estate company to sell this. They will make the real estate company will make between $950 million and $1.1 billion as a fee for selling these things. And who is that real estate company who got that contract? Who is one of the people who are owners in that company? Well, it's Dianne Feinstein's husband, Richard Bloom. People are saying that they didn't realize it was her husband because they have different names. And you gotta love. This person did a great job here of, who is this, Wes? Did a good job of putting down some links. And you looked up people like Snopes and all that, Truth or Fiction and all that. And they say, like, well, the story is got mixed. Yeah, it's true. It's her husband. But the senator's office released a statement saying that Senator Feinstein and her husband, Senator Feinstein is not privy to nor interest has effect or is involved in what her husband does for his business. Reminds me of Bill and Hillary. Bill making these outrageous speaking fees, and then they're getting all of a sudden their charity is getting a huge donation from these same individuals, and then Hillary happens to be the Secretary of State and so forth. And the funny thing about this is, if all these things, you had any doubts and all this, without even having a forensic audit, since she lost the election, nobody's giving to her to her charity. Now, what should that have to do with it? You know, if anything, she should have, quote, more time to give to the charity. Well, no one's giving anymore, so they shut it down. Nobody's giving anymore because there's no more favors. I would think one might say. Also, I have a listener who sent in an email suggesting this place as a open source, quote unquote, his words, type of information on Syria and other things. The name of the website is bellingcat.com, BELLINGCAT.com. And so that's something you guys can check out and see if you'd like to do. Also, a very serious, good article. What happens if Kim Jong-un launched a nuclear strike? That, there's people are talking about, oh, we'll pave them with glass and we'll do all this stuff. You know, it was actually a very good read in Daily Caller, showing the gravity of this whole thing. It's kind of ridiculous. I also want to mention about Mike Pompeo. He pretty much lets me know what I think of him. He's going after WikiLeaks, and he's really insulting WikiLeaks and Julius Assange. And it's funny, he used to be a fan and used to use this stuff or support the stuff until it attacked some of the aspects it doesn't want. So, and New York Times, how about that? So there's a thing on that, TV. Voter IDs. There's another one going down the list. Voter IDs. 5 Lives Liberal tell you about voter IDs. It's amazing to me, the whole liberal voter ID. You have, the person who doesn't have an ID, right? I don't know how many these are in the United States. Legal residents without IDs. Let me add that one. Citizens. I don't even think if you're a legal resident, you can't vote. I think you'd be a citizen. So, citizens, you have to not have a driver's license. I believe all 50 states are photo IDs now. I could be wrong in that. So, except for states where maybe they don't, you can't buy alcohol because you got to have an ID to prove your age. Here I am, white and gray hair, and they got to card you just to, just to be consistent. You don't have a bank account. Any bank accounts, you need to prove who you are. So you have no banking. You credit cards, you could probably get some of those without it. But credit cards are not supposed to be used as IDs and so on. So you whittle down the group of people who in that category, it's a very small group. And in all the cases that I'm aware of for voter ID laws, they will provide the ID to those who can't afford it. Free. In fact, some of them just make them free or just free. It's going to be part of the tax base to provide these for citizens. And there's a very simple solution to get rid of 99% of voter fraud. I don't know, maybe it's 100%, maybe it's 90%. All you have to do is to have purge all voting rolls. Purge them all. And as far as I know, there's twice a year there's elections. And in April and in November. As far as I know. Now, maybe it's different in some areas. They have different. But if you purge them right after an election, say no, it's April. You have until October something to re-register. You have all that time to register. And if you have enacted voter ID laws at the same time, when you go to register, you can get the photo ID. Or, that would be the simplest thing. And if you do have the motor voter, which has its problems, you can get a driver's license and not be a citizen. But if you have to provide citizenship, there's the ID situation right there. I know Lucinda does not have a Illinois driver's license, but she went and got an Illinois state ID. You know, we went to vote. She handed the ID. Our precinct here in Illinois said if you have your license or state ID, and if you're willing to give it to us, it's easy for us to deal with it because you can scan it in rather than have to type stuff in. But it's not, you don't have to. Oh, we gave it to them. So the idea is it's immediately solvable. So the real reasons are you want to have people who aren't legally registered to vote or multiple votings. And in her list, Liz Wheeler on this has got a list of things she tells you is very good. The most obvious one that I addressed this to myself when I was talking to people live was, why don't I think minorities can't register? Are they all poor? Well, you give them this thing. Even that's a racist statement. And if they are unable to do it, meaning that they're mentally deficient or, them people will forget or something, well, that's obviously racist. And I played a video earlier, I should have had that queued up for now, where this guy went around asking people why they asked their opinion about voter ID, why it was bad, and how do you think it would affect minorities? And you have these white individuals who are walking around saying, well, they got a lot of things they're working on. It's kind of hard for them to get around to do it. And they're coming up with all these goofy excuses. And then he went around and turned it and played it to blue-collar working, blue and white-collar working black individuals. And they said, what do you think about this? And they're all laughing and saying it's ridiculous and so on. So we know what the reason is. They want to, and mostly the Democratic Party wants to be able to count on illegal votes. It's just simple as that. There's no even... looking for any of the other... Oh, yeah, here's a good one. You recall the hoopla, I think it was Judge Napolitano, mentioned that the British gave the intelligence on Trump, spied on Trump, gave it to the CIA or whoever, or the Obama administration. And there was a big hoopla, holler. You had the MI6 or whatever, England, officially asking them not to say that again. And then you had Sean Spicer saying he wouldn't bring it up again, sort of in an apology. Well, and here's a story on CNN.com. British intelligence passed Trump associates communications with Russians onto U.S. counterparts. This is important. You got to remember stuff, because it used to be where you would go back years ago and you couldn't remember the stuff that happened years ago and people forgot. And then YouTube came around, and now YouTube's bringing back those things that said years ago. And now it's literally weeks or days. It changes, and people don't do it. So it's like, come on. So it's one of those deals where if you just stick around, it almost looks like you'll find out the true, or at least a reversal will come. And by then it comes in on a quiet ship. They should be yelling. They should be putting together all of the stuff that turned out to be wrong and right, depending, and lining them up and going through it. You don't even need to have a narrative to follow through with it. You could just say them all, and they overturn one another. Here's one thing I want to say before I get to my Easter talk. I remember seeing this. I don't remember the year. Here it is. 1931, Dr. Otto Warburg won a Nobel Prize for cancer discovery. What he proved and discovered is no disease, including cancer, can exist in an alkaline environment. And that I remember this from a while ago, bumping into this. He developed cancer on demand by having the organism live in an acidic environment, which would be the opposite of alkaline. Your body is slightly alkaline. I forgot. I'm going to just say it's like 7.2, which is, I might be off, but just over 7. 7 is the neutral part. And acid is under 7. So if you drink pop, coffee, any of that stuff, you're pouring acid in your body, which has to be neutralized, which tends to bring down the body toward acidic. If you don't breathe well, you're going to have more carbon dioxide in your lungs, and there's all these various aspects of it. And so the thing that they should be working on now is to perpetuate alkalinity in your body and then check for cancer rates. And you can buy water. It's a little expensive. You can buy alkaline water, or you can make your own by simply adding, what was it? You can add calcium carbonate to it, which is a alkaline. But, you know, some people get too much calcium and there's trouble with that too. We were low on potassium. So if you can get food-grade potassium carbonate, that's what I got. I got a bag of it in there. They use it for canning, I think, is the easy way to get a hold of it. You can mix that in with water. It's not pleasant tasting. You know, it's a little salty tasting. Well, I guess because it's alkaline. And so it's, you know, you're going to have to work with it. But what's good about it, okay, I just got a comment here regarding your show today. Isn't a fingerprint a non-fraudulent identification versus a picture identification that can be faked? Yeah, that's true. I think the idea is that you're trying to have a facility that will be certified that could take a picture of you and then your birth certificate or what have you and corroborate it. The problem when you start doing fingerprint stuff is you start getting into that Big Brother. Even these ID cards, people are talking about Big Brother. I know for myself, I've never had to be fingerprinted until I started working, delivering for post office first, and now the current job, contract I have. I have to have a fingerprint, and I have to fingerprint in and out of rail yards. So they have my prints now, but up till a few years ago, I never been fingerprinted, never been arrested or not, whatnot. There's also the idea of looking at your iris. So, you know, one of the problems with the idea of getting too much to a national ID, you know, 666 and all that stuff, you're walking a straight line, but you already have a picture ID for most cases, right? A driver's license, for example. You just make sure you have the integrity of the ID, voter ID aspect of it, and it would raise the possibilities. So let me get to the Easter thing I want to talk about. One of the, if you're familiar with the Zeitgeist series of productions, the first one that came out, Zeitgeist, there was 3 segments. It had to do with the, what was it? But it was political, the money, and then the third one was religion. Now, the first 3 I thought were right on the money. They was like, wow, these guys are nailing it. When they went to the religion part, they did something that I found a problem with. I contacted Peter in the group and asked if they wanted to be on the show, and he replied. And this ties in with Easter, and it ties in with the pagan rituals. And for this point, I'm not talking about pagan good or bad or Catholic over Protestant or nothing like that. The point is that this is what I'd like you to think about. I'm getting, in my mind, I'm working up to do like a whole kind of a segment on it, which I'll work up with links and graphics and all this stuff. But there is the concept which is put out by, let's say, atheists, agnostics. In fact, let me mention this for a minute. The atheist is from a Greek word, atheist. Theist is someone who believes in God. The A in front makes it opposite. Atheist. Theist believes in God. Atheist doesn't believe in God. Doesn't accept God or what have you. The agnostic, Gnostic, is a Greek word for knowledge, kind of meant to be kind of like deep knowledge, let's say. And that deep could be secret or it could be just well-versed or experiential. Those are the kind of aspects. So you have Gnostics that are knowing, agnostic, the G is silent when you say Gnostic, but when you put the A there, it's agnostic, not knowing. So an agnostic doesn't know there's a God, doesn't know. An atheist says there isn't. a lot of the effort has been put into showing, let's say, that Jesus didn't exist, or that Christianity is just a cult from other religions and so on. Basically, their thrust is based on Easter, is on the same time frame where they have the equinox, the spring equinox, and in fact, the way Easter is picked, it's the first Sunday after the equinox. That's why Easter moves around every time. And originally, the thought I read on some of the writings was the Christian organizations wanted to, because they were big deals. All these Gnostic Christmas, which would be the darkest part, it would be the opposite to the spring equinox. You have when you get down to the 21st of December, and that time it has the darkest day, at least in the north. So what you have is these popular holidays. So what the church wanted to do was they wanted to put in, and they wanted to go in and overlay this stuff on it. We are going to celebrate the Passover. We're going to celebrate Easter, the rising of Christ from the dead, over the Passover, over the pagan holidays. And in Christmas, we're going to say that's when Jesus was born, over the pagan holidays. And you notice you have the coinciding of these holidays. Yeah, I know Scowlin' Wolf is in there talking about Ostara and Easter and all that. I understand that. And what I'm trying to say is that the actual teachings in the life of Jesus had nothing to do with any of this. In fact, one thing that they used in the movie Zeitgeist was to show how all these other people, they had born of a virgin, they had 12 disciples, rose from the dead. They were given all these various people in history, in Greek, in Roman history, and mythology, who all did the same thing. And so they, I think, erroneously applied this to Jesus. But here's what I'd like you to think about on this Easter. Because I've went from a fundamentalist Christian through various journeys, through the New Age, through all this stuff, to get where I am now. Where in my mind, I have no doubt and I have no problem saying that Jesus existed, and that the stuff you read in the Bible, probably for the most part, he taught those. And some of the things which might have been added they fit into these, into the camp, so there's no alarm in there. And Jesus' gospel is not the gospel taught in the church. Jesus was repackaged by Rome, and this is why they used all these pagan holidays. They were going to repackage the whole deal. So Jesus was repackaged to fit into these molds. Jesus was not what they said. If you read the Gospels, the gospel narrative is created to provide theological principles. And there are various events that are quoted in the narrative. A narrative is a very strong tool of bringing you along the path. Very many movies will have a narrator, and he'll bring you along to believe something. All of a sudden, it'll be a quick twist, and it turns out, it was the opposite. And then you go back and look at the narration and go, oh, wow, that was very clever. They were using words. And you see it today, speaking of narratives, you see it today all the time in the news. Oh, I'm getting Ron Dolman is correcting me in my potassium. I gotta find out what he said here, because Ron Dolman is my heat guy, health guy. Potassium bicarbonate, you mean? Okay, but I thought I said that. Well, anyway. So what happens is you have Jesus who lived and taught these principles. And it went against the church at the time. It went against the various governments at the time. The church, I call it the church, even though ecclesia is a Greek word. Where, you have a synagogue, and all this stuff. It's the religious institutions at the time. He went against them. In fact, he came from them and was teaching their error. It would be analogous today for someone to teach the error in a church based on principles. And so what Jesus taught these principles, and if you follow these principles, you will have life, because these principles is the true gospel. The narratives were created theologically to bring into bear what they wanted to do. Now, I've mentioned before, we've had line on many times. You can go to holyvirus.net, and there's videos online we put together. You can pick up his book. You get a discount. You can go to the old Feet to Fire site, scroll down. There's a special word to get in for discount. He is, believe me, I'm helping him with this. He's not making money on his book. It's very important because he went through and exposed how a blood virus has crept into the teachings of the church, and have now got brought out of the Old Testament into the New Testament via Paul and others. But if you went to just the Jesus teachings and found out what he says, he always talks about you will know them by their fruits. He doesn't say you'll know them by what doctrine they hold. They don't know if they have the 5 fundamentals of the faith. By their truths, by their fruits, you will know them. It goes on and on again. It's the person who has the heart that loves and helps one another, that honest to God, not for profit, not because he'll get stars in heaven, not because he'll get beat, because there's an inside desire to help people. And in the opposite is an inside desire to use people, to use and abuse them to your own self. Those are the two differences. What Jesus taught was the first one, to love God, to love your neighbor as yourself, to do all these things. These are the teachings, and if you follow along, Jesus is even saying, if you don't do this, you don't feel like this, if you do these things, over time, it will ignite the real love that's in you. God will honor this. Jesus, in his teachings and in his afterlife, will work within you. All these things are relatively clear in the gospel. The problem Yeah, well, I know what web addresses will use this. I will have addresses, of course. The problem with all of this has to do with the repackaging of Jesus, so that when people say, well, Jesus never existed, the whole Christian principles are those that have been retaught throughout ages from paganism, those two aren't mutually exclusive. It does, if you can prove that Jesus doesn't fit these redefined principles, or you can prove that these actual what did I just do? I just hit a button here. Yeah, see, this is the problem when you have to do your own things here. I'm gonna assume it's still going. The when you prove the principles wrong in the church and say, yeah, well, were other saviors, and there were other people who had disciples, and there were other people that did this kind of thing. Wait a minute. It's not Jesus' fault. That's the people who repackage Jesus' fault. That's the people who try to use cleverness, and they try to get their followers, to get people into their cults, to get people to be like them, because the ego wants to be echoed. When someone is ego, they put people around themselves that tell them what they want to hear. They want to go have a crowd that will follow them because of what they say. There's not a challenge in it. This is why cults don't have challenges. You say, wait a minute, what about this? Well, then you're not a believer. Then the devil's talking in your ear and you got to go. So the aspect here is that whether Jesus even died and rose is irrelevant. I happen to think he did, because it's like, yeah, I like the way that fits in there, but it's irrelevant, those teachings, because after that, the narratives and the churches from years on came forward teaching that you have to believe in the resurrection in order. And think of John 3:16. If you actually listen to what Jesus said, purported to say, it kind of answers itself. God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. whoever believes in him shall have eternal life. All right? The term believes in him is the sticky point. What does that mean? Believe in him. It doesn't contain enough information. You have to, well, it means if you believe that he died for your sins. It didn't say that in there. You believe in him. And Jesus said in the books, and again, I'll put this out in a nice area where I will quote all this stuff, is Jesus says, if you believe in me, you will do as I say. The whole concept is if you believe in him, and if you believe in what he's saying, you will be like him. And these are all the teachings. We're talking about culture 2,000 years ago in a couple of languages over, but you could still get it through. So when it says believe in him, I believe in him and his teachings, and it's the correct, and it's the way and the truth and the line, and I follow him. And by grace that are you saved, not of works. Now I'm quoting Paul, but the aspect is true. And I can get into there's other arguments. There's people who talk about the Armenians who think that you could lose your salvation. There's and in there's two camps. You can lose your salvation, or you cannot lose your salvation, but you choose. And then you have the Calvinists who say that you have nothing to say about it. God chooses you for whatever reason. You have all these arguments come out of the same Bible, and they miss the whole point, what Jesus taught. If you actually go read, in fact, if you wanted to do this, read the red letter. If you got a red letter edition, it doesn't even matter what translation. It's easier on some of them. The NIV is I think I like the NASB personally, but pick up the old King James red letter version and read what Jesus said. Not the narrative, not the apostles, not the later, just what they said. And whether Matthew wrote Matthew or not, it doesn't even matter. It's a narrative that was put together, and they had sayings that Jesus said that people remember. Gospel of Thomas is a good example. It's not an official gospel, and the liberal critics, textual critics, like it because they think, this is what a gospel would sound like written by somebody. Just a bunch of one-liners, one or two-liners. Yeah, that's what was around when they put the narratives together, and they drew upon those things, and of course worked in their theology to bring it to bear, touch base to the Old Testament so they can go, we're telling the truth here. Look how these things work. And then they go and they set their agenda, which is a blood sacrifice. And you could just do this thinking. So let's take an example. I don't know, I guess it would be you stole something from somebody. And so you can't repay it back because you broke or stole some, I don't know, one-of-a-kind painting. I'm trying to make this analogy here, so analogies work great and bad at the same time. And so you can't pay it back. You can't replace it. So the person who you stole from just demands that you take your son. He kills your son. And that will make it even. I mean, it's ridiculous, right? But instead, you're talking about God, who is the most all-knowing, loving, made the entire world and all its mechanisms, all for a purpose and a reason, all coming to a point in the teaching. You have this aspect. He made you knowing you were going to quote sin, and sin is only missing the mark. It means that you're going to make mistakes as you'll learn. And so you can't, you're born out of the womb, damned to hell. You don't even have to do anything, damned to hell, by original sin. And then you screw up along the way. God is going to put you in hell forever, separate you from God forever with the most eternal pain you can possibly come up with forever because of that. But to save you from that, he turned around and tortured and killed his only son, Jesus. I used to believe that, and I would cry, and I would be so thankful, and I would be so thankful to Jesus and all this stuff. And it dawns on you, it's like, the worst thing you can do that I can think of is the murdering of the innocent. The blaming and setting a person up for a crime they didn't do, or killing them. It'd be the worst. And what you're saying is this God chose to do his antithesis of his being in order to save us, when all he had to do as God is go, all right, you're forgiven. When you put it in simple terms, it's amazingly, stunningly dumbfounding. But you're brought up in that type of thing. And remember, I was there, hardcore Baptist. So it took a long time of praying to God for wisdom to find these things to get to where I am today. It took 20 years, I think it is, if I figure it out. 17, about 20 years to get to this point, to go against my most ingrained, believed, purposeful stuff. So if I can do that with just wanting to know the truth, that's what I wanted to know, the truth. And I noticed everybody's wrong and everybody has a piece. For example, there's a guy, I'd recommend you reading him. I have a lot of books in my Facebook. I don't know if I can even see that now. I guess I don't. But Bart Ehrman is his name, and he did a lot of writings. He was a fundamentalist, went to college, and found out that there was a lot of problems with the authenticity of proving of the Scripture, proving it in a scientific method. And he ended up becoming an agnostic because he saw that and he was turned off by it. So you ask him, he can't prove one word of the Bible was said by Jesus. You can't prove it. But you can have a philosophical proof of it. There's a philosophical proof that things are true without having the knowledge, the technical knowledge that they are true. There's a truthness to truth, that if you want truth and not just want your way, and in order to get to that point, you have to turn away from wanting your way. And when you start to find truth, you're going to find out that you were wrong, and you were wrong on many important things. And it's going to be a big test of your character at that point of whether or not you want to find truth. And that's why a lot of people who go through really terrible things that are broken down, death in the family, or they themselves are involved in a heinous crime, or they just break everything down and they rebuild themselves out and they come back out to be better suited for finding truth because they've already lost their big illusion. And I prayed to the Father, just like Jesus said. In fact, Jesus never told him to pray to us, pray to him. He says, pray to the Father. And so there's nothing wrong with praising Jesus, but the whole point of his teachings were to take us and point us to the Father. And so to me, it's a fantastic and wonderful thing. I've done fasting and praying and had just wonderful results. So I love God with all my heart, mind, and soul. And I looked at Jesus' teachings and his metaphysical working in people's lives. I'm all with that. But when you come up with a list of things you have to do in order to be qualified, there's a problem. Now, of course, if what's qualified is your work, your heart, what you do. Do you seek to help? Do you seek to use? Are you a salesman, seeing how much you can grab out of somebody's wallet and laugh at them when they're dumb? You, my friend, got a problem. And I don't care what your creed is in church, and I don't care what you think. You're looking to use your fellow man. You got a problem. And likewise, if somebody is helping other people and so forth, they're helping people, and they're actually helping people hurt other people and themselves, that's a problem too. So anyway, I'll put together one of the reasons why I've what would be the word? One of the reasons why I've been. Oh, I just left the chat room. Sorry about that, folks. One of the reasons why I've been kind of dragging on doing this is because I'm looking at why. I'm doing it and it's like I feel funny. There we go. I'm in the control room now. All right. It's like I don't want to sit here and tell people what to think or do. I'm not some kind of a prophet with the answers and so forth. All I can do is share what I've been and what I've done and why and how. And that way people could use it or what have you for themselves. But I'm not looking to start some kind of a church or a cult or, I'm not looking to start a sect or break away from things. But what I do think is I've really, if you've been looked at my website, let me go back to the website for a minute. If you look at the website, both of them, the old one and the new, you see I have two people up there, Jesus of Nazareth and Socrates of Athens. These two people I really look to, Jesus being the spiritual guide from within in the heart, Socrates being the mind, the thought process, the analytical. And those are the two people that I look at their teachings for. And in the case I have quotes here, Jesus talking to the self-appointed experts, they are blind guides of the blinds, and if a blind man leads a blind man, both will fall into the pit. And Socrates, this is without doubt the most reprehensible folly, the folly of thinking we know what we do not know. And I also got the unexamined life is not worth living. You have to know, when you know something, you got to go, why do you know it? I know that. How and why. It's more how you got there and why you got there and what you came from than even what words you're saying that matters. This is where the idea of critical thinking and philosophy come in. And so this is what I can do. I wanted to say a few things at Easter. If someone would ask questions on the topics, hey, well, if that's true, then what about this and what about that? I'm very good at doing that. Or, at least I enjoy doing that. I'll let you decide if I'm good or not. And this is why I'd like to have people who want to know stuff ask me things so I can customize it around that rather than just sitting here and doing a 45-part study on something, which would bore me to tears, let alone other people, because I don't have the patience, and I probably had ADD before it was invented. I don't have the patience to sit and do some kind of long, drawn-out thing, but at any given moment, I can go deep into a philosophical topic or what I know on it and go into it for a long time, showing what I've come up with on it. And when I show you what I come up with, it's only simply to give it to you and then say what you want to do with it. So, I'm looking at the chat room if I can catch up. So, life after Trump bombed Syria, is it AD? After Trump B Syria S? And we're still moving forward. I don't know what's going to go on there. But for my own self, I have to work on being true, to find truth, to be truth, and to live truth. And reality is the key to truth. So, with that, I think we'll go into less visible.
Hello! Greetings as ever from Dog Poet transmitting and the Saucer Pod. Yes. It is a very special day. Greetings from the Arcturian Brotherhood and the Sirius Cluster. 2 stars. One called Cluster because it is part of Ursa Major, part of a collection of 220 stars, sharing a common path with all those other stars, I suppose you would say. Ursa Major, Ursa Minor, Greater and Lesser Bear, they're about 9 light years away. That's not so far, I suppose. Arcturus is next door to Ursa Major, and it's been around a long time. It's known as the Greater Bear Guardian, I believe. And whether it has a planetary system or not has been proven by, of course, our really informed scientists. However, Edgar Casey says that the Arcturians are the most advanced civilization in the universe. And it's 5th dimensional, as well as a prototype of our future. They preach love, and they're a God realization society. They're telepaths, and the gift of my own possession of it as well. You can find out what is known through research. Sirius is twice our sun size, and Arcturus is 25 times our sun size. They're both bright because they're fairly close compared to other stars, and Arcturus is very fast. It moves at a very very quick speed, and I suppose that means something too. Well, since we are vlogging now and we're now visible, visible, and therefore you can see us. Well, I suppose two are not mutually exclusive. I can now say, "Hi, James. How you doing? Really nice to see you again." Tonight, unfortunately, I will not be able to see you because I have to go out and celebrate Easter with some people. But allow me, in the meantime, though, to say Happy Easter to you and to the rest of those who are presently watching this and watching you. The quote from Scripture that we want to use today is, "I can do all things through Christ who strengtheneth me." And that's true, I can, and so can you. That which is Christ, that is resident in all of us, whether it is in a state of potential or kinetic reality, is real, as opposed to is unreal, that country. I don't know, I'm in a bit of an amused state today. You know, Christ had many incarnations, according to Edgar Casey. According to him, Adam was an incarnation, Joshua, and Joshua, by the way, Jesus and Joshua, they basically mean the same thing. The translation of which is liberty, or liberation, freedom, and such. When it says at the knee of Jesus, every knee shall bow, it merely means that at the knee of your own freedom and liberation, your knee will bow. Does that make sense? I hope so. Melchizedek supposedly was an incarnation. Zoroaster possibly was. Hermes Trismegistus, Casey says, was. Oh, Enoch, the source of the original Kabbalah, before it got completely perverted by the residents of Is Unreal, although they were never resident there anyway. Um, well, he was also supposedly an incarnation of Jesus the Christ. This fellow Emilius was an incarnation of Jesus the Christ. And apparently he was one of the representatives of that first generation of us that came here and became trapped in the generation of material form. And then, how do I put it? And then came, well, I'm not exactly who. Who? Well, I'm not who. I'm not exactly sure. But the next generation that another one of these incarnations was involved in, of Christ. And that one was representative of the one who came to free us from being trapped here. There's this fellow called Notovich who wrote about a lot of this, and he wrote about the missing years of Jesus Christ and the time that Jesus Christ spent in India, and he studied Hinduism, and he went, Tracy did, and so of course he Christ, and he went to, I don't know why I'm so amused, and he went to Egypt as well, and talks about how Christ joined the Jains, and everything is speculation, but we should all aspire to be Jesus because he was the first who overcame death in the body. And by this, I mean to imply not just death itself, but the return of continuous forms of life or reincarnation. Because you're not just free of the presence or threat of death, but also the threat of the continuation of lives that result in death. In other words, you're then able to, I suppose, materialize and dematerialize at will. Today was very sunny. Of course, I have the shades pulled. However, Easter was very sunny. And why is it that so many Easters are very bright and very sunny? And this is because, I'm about to break out laughing again. I have no idea why. Because we'll get it together. Good. God, man. Okay. Anyway, it is because material reality in which we all exist is a projection of our minds. And that Christ force within us is the spirit of love and unity. Love and unity have a lot of, have a brother, have a strong relationship between them. And the Zion Nazi Satanists and the rest of those out there who work for the dark side and the dark forces, they represent divisiveness and darkness. And so they are in opposition to the good that is potential, possible, and true within all of us and also as an expression of this. Well, so on Easter, we celebrate this wonderful expression that is the Lord Jesus Christ, who is our true self. Now, who is this self we're presently running around in? That is not our true self. That is a temporary expression of a personality based on error, misinformation, and untruth. And you might say that that is the astrological presentation of us. Each of us is born within the envelope of a particular sign, and then we have all these different aspects of other planets that exist like a clock face, irrespective of the moment in which we were born, all having to do with the particular karma we are born to, and responsible for carrying out and clearing out and resolving. Yeah, something like that. But should we encounter grace and should we encounter the fulsome of the almighty ineffable within ourselves, well then, we can resolve this karma and we can become representative of and expressive of the powerful, beautiful, and wonderful light of the Almighty God that is within us and which is us, as opposed to that which is not us in this carnival and cartoon what less than wonderland that we run around in out here, all deceiving each other and representing deception and caught up in the thrall of illusion and all sorts of things that aren't so, and thereby leading lives that are filled with and fraught with suffering. It's a pleasure to be in communication with all of you today on this most wondrous of days. Uh, as far as what the day itself is, well, I couldn't really tell you. It's different for each one of us. But what the day itself represents and symbolizes, now, that is a promise that it exists and which we can take advantage of if we wish to. But too many of us are taking advantage of TV and Kardashian Think and the rest of these crazy mixed up falsehoods that are the world we move through when we're traveling through the shopping malls and down the street and in our learning institutions and at our jobs and all the rest of these ridiculous fantasies that have no real meaning and are all temporal deceptions and which are unfortunate and which indeed do cause us to suffer and cause us to cause others to suffer because we are living in a world of deception and in a place where it would be better if we weren't at all. However, we are. God, I don't know why I'm so amused. I think I'm probably in a good mood. I was driving down the road a few days ago with my friend here, and this very large possum in broad daylight came across the street and walked right in front of us and crossed the street. And I was wondering, well, what does it mean when a possum does that? And I finally remembered to look it up instead of just remembering it all the time when I was laying in bed. And apparently it has a lot to do with wisdom coming and seeing, being able to harvest the power of appearances, positive deception, to be able to know the power of positive deception, to be able to protect ourselves in this world of lies by being able to take advantage of masks, whatever masks that we may need to wear, or to, play dead if need be. Yeah, to pretend to be something for protection, and that being having a positive result for us, or to be fearful, and for some strange reason that proving to be useful to us, or to be fearless. Now, I'm not sure which applies to me, but I've been in a very strange mood ever since this happened, and I have been having some very strange things happening to me, and I don't know what it has to do with the possum, but I've been seeing a lot of very strange things, and goodness gracious, I have no idea what it means. But it must mean something. And I wish all of you the very, very best tonight. Very much to you as well, James, and all the wonderful good work that you do, and all of the wonderful people that come here in search of whatever it is possible for us to discover or know about ourselves, and to practice as we come to a state of understanding and are able to represent that powerful truth that is within us. I celebrate you, and I pray that the time will come that our suffering will end, and that we will be able to achieve something greater in ourselves. And I know that we shall. I truly believe this. We are living presently in apocalypse, and I believe that this apocalypse has come about for a very good reason, and has a lot to do with the second coming of the Lord Jesus Christ, who, as we talked about already this evening, appears, in different forms at different times. Okay, we've come to the end of another broadcast, and I will see you next week, well, if there is one. And that said, hail Lord Jesus Christ. Greetings, my good friend, Lord Ganesh. Om Amitabha. Much love, Lady Nature. Hare Krishna. Michamambu, Guru Baba. Allah Akbar. Carry on, Bahabullah. Aloha and
He's long and tall and slender, and he's got a walking stick. You'll be changed forever if you get hit by it. He's coming for the Zionists and all their bankers too. And if you don't behave yourself, he's coming after you. There's no way to stop him. He can't be bribed or bought. And he's sweeter than the air in spring, and meaner than you thought.
I'm going to pull this down here. You can find the you can download the audio version of this, and you can hear that song, Mr. Apocalypse. I want to mention one more thing I didn't do here beforehand. I just saw it up there on my tab, hiding all the way at the end, and I missed it. Trade and Services Agreement, TISA. You would do well to read about this with the TPP being gone. This is still there, though I probably think it's unlikely to be adopted, but it's there. You can read about it. I'll put some links up at the bottom. Trade and Services Agreement, TISA. There is also, I'll also put a link to a video I saw that, no, that's right, I'm sorry, it was not a video. It's a book I'm reading from, called Armageddon. It was from Dick Morris. I got this affliction. Whenever I see the person's face, I can't see their name. I don't know what it is. I'm insane. I'm losing my mind, but it happens, and it's very awkward to me, especially when you're sitting here on TV and radio now or whatever. But Dick Morris, in his book, goes into detail about this trade and services agreement and the little secret and hidden thing about it. Some WikiLeaks came out with some stuff about it, which brought it to light. It was going to be, I think, folded into or tacked onto or presented with TPP. God. I don't know, you people put up with me. But the most important thing to remember about this is that what this point was, it would be like free trade for immigration. And if you had a company and was in America, they could hire workers from another company, or especially if they have a sister in another part of the world, bring them in and have them work. They would not be subject to the Obamacare mandates. You know, hopefully those will be gone anyway, but they would not be, there's nothing to do with immigration. There wouldn't be green cards needed. It would be like if you wanted to bring a piece of equipment from a factory that you had in another country and bring it to your country thing in America. That's how this is being done, that you could move people around and it would supersede and overstep any immigration rules. So you could conceivably, you talk about outsourcing, you could conceivably hire an entire workforce and have them moved in from another country and replace all your workers, and that would be legal under this trade in services. The key is services. These people would provide a service, and it would be trading in those services. That would be free trade, and it would be a treaty which would supersede the Constitution. So keep that in mind. Do some work on it. I'll put some links below when I'm doing the maintenance on the show. And I'd like to try and get that section. I'm trying to get a hold of Dick Morris to see if I can do an interview with him on that, or if I can at least quote from that audio book, perhaps. But we'll see. But it's important. It's important now with Trump in here and him already killing TPP. It's less important because it's less likely to be used. But it is one of those things that would be all it is moot. I'll talk about walls and speaking of that, the illegal immigration is down huge. What was it, like 60% down over last year? In the months. And if he can get it down enough, you won't need a wall. So don't look at a wall as, I got to have a wall. The goal here is to stop illegal immigration. However that is done, provided it's legal and humane, you don't mow them down, oh my God, at the line. But whatever method you do to prevent that will be good. And Trump's wall could be his word. So don't get tied up on legalities and stuff like this. Look at the bigger picture. But anyway, remember that Trade and Services Agreement, TISA. I want to remember that. As for you people who came in later, I watched this opening in this video when you get a chance, just for a few minutes, because we had a special guest who was who had surgery and came through pretty good, and so I invited him to come on the show just to kind of say hi. So check that out when you can at the beginning. All right, I think that's going to end it for here, and we'll see you again next week, as Les would say, if there is one. Reach for the skies within, and remember, the path to truth is the lack of contradiction.